Hi, I'm Giuseppe from Cobalt Image. On this video, I show you how to manage the white balance using our Cobalt Spectre profiles. Let's go through the photos. Here we are. We start from a flower photo. Develop settings in auto to make our life easier. And duplicate the same photo using the reference from Lightroom. So we'll have an Adobe version and a Spectre version with the same setting on develop. Of course, the color shift is huge. You can see that it's even the details in color comes out, but we know that already from our base profile. The big difference here is how the white balance is managed. As you can see on the website, we have different Spectre versions: Studio, Standard, Pro. In this case, we're using the standard with triple illuminant. That means that we have three different exact perfect value of white balance for the image. And when we work as a shot, we're not using at all that. Because as shot is what the camera gives us after the picture, after the camera gets the right white balance. The first thing we see on both picture is that the white balance on Adobe is 4644 positive tint. On Cobalt Spectre it's 5145 in tint. Why they're different? Is if the same as shot setting is selected, because that the way the engine on Adobe works, getting the profile matrix and passing through the number of the profile matrix, the coordinates selected by the camera. It's not using the profile, just giving us as a number as a result of this calculation. So we have different numbers, but the same, basically the same white balance setting. Is that correct? That's the first point we should ask to our software. I can say it's not correct because I took that picture. I remember exactly the moment I took the picture, the illuminant situation, the light situation during the day. It was 5 o'clock in the evening and was something close from daylight to cloudy. We can start from daylight. You see the big jump of the picture. You see the green coming out. You see the general approach, the general result of the image is more realistic, less, I would say, acid, extreme, with just one click, daylight. And we also see, other than the temperature, the big shift in tint. The pre-select daylight setting is always with 10 plus on tint, but the starting point of the picture was 43, 44, as we can see, 45. So we can just change a bit, remembering that the 45 given by the camera is a guessing of the camera. Because the scene is super bright and super saturated by one side is violet, the other side is green and surrounded by green color because we are in a garden, of course the camera compensates, giving us a big shift in tint. As you can see, 45, and with Adobe it's 44. So we know the light situation will be something between daylight and cloudy. We can get 6,000. And also we can just compensate a bit, let's say 20. Boom, that's the final picture. The final photo. Compared to the Adobe one. Of course, we can do the same with Adobe. Let's do the same with Adobe. Daylight, no, 6,000, the illuminant, and we compensate a bit as well on the tint. You see the difference? You see how easy it is to guess the proper white balance and how hard was with the general approach of the software. Why this difference? Because the illuminant, the triple illuminant, and because the custom-made profile connected with the spectral data of the sensor and not made to make our life easier on general dull color but good color. This is not a good color. This is the proper color of the scene. Let's go further to another picture. So now we can work with something different. I show you that exactly because there's another part of Spectre that takes the edge when you see it. As usual, make our life easier, we duplicate the auto setting and we use a reference, the first. So, as usual, Adobe on the sides, and the other side will be our Cobalt standard. First thing you see, let's start again, please keep your eye on blue on the dress, from that to that. I show you more a closer effect. You can see that just changing a color profile changed the rendition of the details, because the blue on the standard one is not depth enough to give us all the detail of the dress. If you see, the jump is huge. Haven't touched anything like texture, clarity, dehades, or something else. It's just color profile. And the starting point is a big jump. Look the details, look the texture, the depth of the blue. The difference is embarrassing. But we're not here just for that. We're here to know more about the white balance. As we did before, we have the same scene with 6,000 on one side, 64 on the other side. One side has 12, the other is 25 on tint. It's good enough. I don't know. I haven't taken this picture, but I can guess the light situation is something like cloudy. And selecting the cloudy, you see a cast going away. Because as before, the picture, I suppose, has been taken in a green area. Green area means the camera compensates, giving us more positive tints. So the shot was the same, almost the same temperature, but more tint. We did that. And the tint shift to the green. You see the final picture? You see the, look the suit. Here it's quite violet. Here it's gray. And if you do the same on Adobe, what happens? Cloudy. We compare Adobe and Spectre. The jump is impressive. We can compensate a bit if we want, giving us something like 12, 15. The suit is it's perfect. Maybe the skin tone is more accurate. As you can see, that's the correct approach on white balance. Even the details, like having a violet tone here. Something between violet and orange is still in the scene. Let's go to another one. Okay, now we can work on that picture I took. As usual, auto. I want to remember that this is just about white balance. Of course, we have a raw editor. Lightroom, you can do whatever you want after selecting the proper starting points. The subject here is just our picture. When we load the picture, we put some settings just to open the raw, and we change our white balance following the profile selection. Another one to remember, I'm working on a full calibrate sRGB monitor just because I need it for internet. And you know, internet is basically sRGB. But when you see a bit of posterization on the picture is not a problem of profiles, it's just because these profiles, the Spectre profiles, are made for professional work. And usually when you work on a professional monitor, calibrated monitor, you work on Adobe RGB color space, and you're never going to see any of the posterization. You can maybe find on extreme color like the color of the flower before in the previous picture. On this photo has been taken during full daylight with some clouds, but you see from the shadow the light was basically a daylight situation. We have on the left side Adobe, on the right side Cobalt. Before selecting profile, 5311 on Cobalt becomes 6410. It's not dramatic, the difference, to be honest. It's more accurate, yes. Yes, it's more accurate. You see from the green, it's coming out the proper green. The sky also, yeah. Here seems to be quite under an orange cast. See the difference. But that is just the first part. As I told before, we are on daylight situation. So we select daylight because we know it's a daylight situation. It's not about guessing the proper one. It's something that we already know. And with Spectre, you can use that. Why? I'll show you. Boom, daylight. The picture is correct. I will never change anything else. If we do the same deterministic approach on Lightroom with the starting profile of Adobe Color, let's do it. Boom, daylight. You see the difference. With Lightroom, with the standard profile of the color, Adobe Color, or Adobe Standard, Adobe Color is just a loop of Adobe Standard. To find the proper color, the proper white balance, you have to work guessing the proper one, writing numbers, moving slider, finding a gray point in the image. On Spectre, you select the daylight because it was daylight and the feature is there. Let's go to another one. Taking this time the energy with a Leica. Okay, Adobe Color, we duplicate it, and as usual, okay. So we have a rainfall picture. This is a rainfall during a daylight situation. This was taken during, I think it's noon or something like that. The white balance is 49 and in this case it's 51. So basically it's similar, quite similar. There is a shift on tint, changing the color profile, but it's almost there. What's the difference? When you select Cobalt Standard, you see the first difference is the blue, as usual. On the sky, on the dress, the blue change. I will say in better, but changed. And the red as well. Everything is more vibrant. And the greens? The greens. The greens are a bit different, not dramatically, but different. That before selecting the proper white balance. And we want to select it. and that it's at least daylight with some clouds. Let's say daylight for now. Yes, it's daylight. If we do the same with Adobe, daylight, pardon. Okay, so the same daylight settings, Adobe Color and Cobalt Spectre standard. You see the difference. We nailed the color of the picture with just a single click. Let's go to another one. This is the first studio picture we see today. And as usual, or maybe too much, the auto setting is not doing a great job. Okay, let's keep it. Let's control it. And to be honest, okay, let's keep it. So we duplicate it, and as usual, we have a reference. A reference is Adobe with 3500 on minus -8 on the tint. In that case, because we are inside the studio, we use the Cobalt Studio. Why Cobalt Studio? Because it's more specific, the illuminant selection for studio works, and we want to use a specific profile here. Here you see that 3700 minus 17. Okay. I'm sure, almost sure, that is not the proper illuminant because it's quite close to tungsten, to LED lights. That's not the case. I will select something close to flash. And you see how easy it is to find out the proper one. Look the skin tone. Look the difference. Just a single click. If I do the same on Adobe Color, what happens? That's the result. If you check the skin tone, the difference is very, very big. As usual, just a single click, knowing the illuminant, and the final result is way, way better. For a professional job, imagine someone developing and editing 1,000 pictures on a wedding, or maybe doing some studio shots with a known, well-known illuminant. How easy would be the editing job? Okay. We can work on auto basis. Good enough. Skip it. Control the settings. Auto is not always perfect. Okay. We duplicate as usual and we select as a reference the first one. Okay. Adobe is the starting point with 3800. You see, the camera, it's always selecting a wrong, let's say wrong profile when is the studio situation. On a studio lighting, usually the camera is not perfect. You have to select it. That's why on professional works, you calibrate it before the session. But in that case, we did not calibrate the camera, and this is the result. Okay, if I select the studio, the small change on temperature and tint, what I see is, oh, we have a blonde color again. This is the blonde for Adobe. This is what I say, a real blonde color. And you see the difference on the skin tone as well. It looks like a small, a purple cast or something like that here compared to that. But now we have to guess the proper illuminant, the white balance. I took this picture. I remember the light. The light was daylight with a white skin on top of the light, a diffuser. It was a flash. You see? Just selecting the proper illuminant. The jump. Again, a shot. Flash. That was under a diffuser, a wide one, so we can reduce a bit to 5000, or maybe putting some compensation on tint. 5006 negative. Let's do it on Adobe. Another one where the illuminant selection, the white balance settings, it's so easy. Just 1, 2, in this case 3 clicks, and you have a picture, the final picture. Sorry, the starting point for your editing, of course. You can now start editing, adding vignetting, removing the problems with the skin, enhancing the hair. You can do whatever you want, but you have a real starting point, a proper starting point, not something that if you don't have the reference, you think is good, but it's not good. Because if you only have that picture, you will say, oh, we can change a bit, reduce a bit. Oh, that's good. That's not good. That is good. That is good. Even changing a bit is not enough, because that is the picture I would like to take when I invest so much on a camera, on a studio setting, on a model job, and that is not what I want. Let's go to another one. I kept as last picture one for landscapers. I'm quite a landscaper photographer, so I know when you wait for the sun during a morning, a cold morning, and you see superb shades of color on the sky waiting for the sun coming out from the sea, and also your witness of fantastic shade of pink, blue, orange on the sky, and many times you take the picture saying, wow, you go back home and you can see that. You only see a dull color, a white color on the sky. This is a good starting point. It's a good reference for what I'm telling you. We have this picture taken in 544. I would say before the sun coming out from the sea. We duplicate as usual. Oh, I forgot to edit. Auto for bots. Okay, it's good enough. So we have the Adobe with 4000 onto white balance, and the standard it's 4500. Okay. First thing you see when you select Cobalt standard, I do that again, just so you can see. Look, the lights, boom. The shades, the different approach for the light, the roll-off is different, and you can see that. Is the camera doing a proper job? 4500 before the sun coming out? No, I tell you, no. The manual, I mean the theory tell us that you need at least a cloudy even shade illuminance selection. Oh, just selecting that, to my eyes, comes out why I took this picture in the first step. Why I took this picture? For the blue sky? No, I took this picture just because I wanted that pink, the purple effect of the aurora in the moment before the sun coming out. So maybe it's too pink. Okay, let's do something less extreme, cloudy. And maybe compensating a bit. -8, it's enough. Okay, if you do 6500 and -7 on the Adobe version, that's what we have. And that is why I always complain it's coming back home and opening the photos on the computer. Because I remembered, oh, that situation, this color feeling of pink, blue, the cold pink on the sky was great. I can see that. Now you can see. Just selecting the proper white balance. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment or get in touch by email. Thanks for watching.